Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I am your host, Lorenzo Melcher, coming to you again from my basement. It's very comfortable down here. I have a new setup. You can't tell because my computer is on a computer stand bought by my lovely wife. Now, it won't be running hot when I'm trying to record these podcasts. So I'm getting new equipment, a $20 computer stand. Who knew that I needed it? It's great. Thanks to all of you for always liking, sharing, subscribing, downloading to the podcast. We're almost to 150 YouTube subscribers. I don't like telling my kids that because they make fun of me. But hey, we're almost there. If you're listening to this and haven't subscribed, just go hit that bell. Subscribe. It doesn't do anything for you besides getting a notification, but it helps me tremendously and all of us over here at the Nerdball Podcast. Who is us? I don't know, but there's a lot of us that make this podcast work. Today's episode, pretty serious, but you really can't tell based on how we react to conversations. But there's a lot of suicide talk because that is what this person deals with: suicide, drug addiction, and helping people get through that, get through those times. So if you don't want anybody to hear such talk, maybe this isn't the episode to listen in front of a bunch of people. Throw your earbuds in, check it out. Let us know what you think. If you have good things to say or bad things to say, say them in the comments, and I will respond, hopefully. So again, thank you for always listening to this, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks.
My name is Heather Michelle Funk Palacios, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right, Heather, thanks for coming on my podcast today.
I'm glad to be here virtually.
I don't know. I don't know.
Look at my dumb dog. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I've had some awesome background stuff with Zoom. I had a teacher or a former teacher on here where her daughter kept coming in and like asking questions and stuff. So it's all good.
I got golden doodles. They're the dumbest dog of all the dogs, but they're nice, friendly.
So
anyway,
before we start, you said your name and you said Funk, and I remember I used to coach junior high track, and there was this kid named Isaac Funk. Are you related to him at all?
I mean, not that I know of.
Okay.
I will say Funk is not up there with like Smith and Johnson for a last name.
Correct.
And it is a curse if you're a kid, straight up.
Oh,
yeah, like poke me in the eyeballs that had to be my last name as a pasty white girl in Chicago. But who knows? My dad ran track, and he's a Funk, so I don't know. Maybe. Maybe in one of those test tube spit DNA things, I'll find out I'm related to Isaac.
Well, Heather, before we start rolling about you, I always ask this question to all my guests. I think it's important. It's an important question. I strive to have real good work-life balance. So I always ask people, what is something you're nerding out about? Something you're really into, a hobby, either something you just started or something you got into. It could be anything: cooking, walking, reading, whatever, and something that gets you away from the daily grind where either you do it by yourself or you do it with your family. Just something that you're just like really nerding out about lately.
Nerding out about? Well, I've been nerding out about the dude in the Bible named Paul. So nerded out about it. I'm reading a lot of books on him, and I'm going to go on a crazy trip where I will walk all the walks that he took when he was out and about back about 2,000 years ago.
And why specifically Paul?
Well, I mean, we'll talk about this in a minute, but I have a mission, a ministry, an organization, and a struggle, and it's all around suicide. And Paul, when you do a deep dive as a nerd into his life, you'll see that he struggled as well, and a lot of experts say it was mentally. And what I think is so noble is, despite the fact that he struggled, it was so tortured mentally, he didn't give up. And that's been a huge source of encouragement to me. Mm-hmm. But also, Paul at one point was busted and thrown in prison. And the text says that he, the chains broke and he was able to walk free out of prison. And the warden at the time was getting ready to kill himself because the warden knew he was going to pay a price for Paul getting being able to walk out of prison when it was his responsibility to protect Paul from doing that. And the text says Paul yelled at him, "Stop, don't kill yourself. We're all here." And so Paul thwarted a suicide. And that's what I do. I try to help people not do that.
Where is this walk going to take you?
I think like Greece,
Okay.
Turkey, Syria.
None of that, and not even the fact that it has to do with Paul specifically, but all of that terrifies me. I'm not like, woohoo! It is well documented on this podcast. I'm not a huge I do enjoy travel, just to specific spots, and out of the country travel. I've never done it besides going to Mexico right over the border with my grandma and parents to go shopping. I don't leave the country, and it terrifies me to leave the country.
All right. Well, I'll let you know how it goes if I make it back alive.
Well, what are you looking forward to most out of this walk? And because I'm assuming there are other people or other stories you have read that have people that people have done this walk.
Yeah. I'm going with a family. They invited me to go with them. I just think that, I'm 50 years old and I have been struggling with suicide since I was 8. That's a long time. And I do at this point consider myself an expert on how to survive it in every stage of a person's life, barring the elderly years. I mean, I've struggled with it every stage of a person's life, and I'm still here. And I think it's going to be a treat to myself. Treat yourself, little Parks and Rec reference.
Yeah.
But I think it's, because I have made it this far so far with that struggle. I do want to go where Paul was and allow myself to kind of, walk in his shoes.
That's cool, because it is like you said, you are doing this for yourself because you help so many people. Sometimes people lose sight of being able to do something good for themselves or nice, or getting something as simple as like, hey, I'm gonna go. I never eat a bagel. Because I'm always running late or whatever, or I'm trying to eat better. But here, I'm gonna eat a bagel today. Like real small things that just can make you feel better. And this is a big thing that you get to do this walk and go walk where Paul walked.
I just ordered some sick walking shoes, man. They're like super dope. So I'm excited about that. I mean, I gotta have some fresh kicks.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna do this and my feet are gonna be in Instagrams, they're gonna look good.
How long is this walk?
I don't know. I mean, it's 3 countries. I'm gonna be there like 16 days.
Okay.
If I don't fly out early, if I make it, I can see myself being like the first pansy to be like, "Yo, deuces, I'm out. Put me on the first class ticket back to Florida." But I think I'm gonna I think it's gonna be life changing. I really do. I've been studying this cat for so long. Now I get to go be where he was. I think I might be able to suck it up.
So I think there may be times where you're like, hey, I'm out here. But if you're doing it with other people, I feel like that will. It won't take much for you to be like, man, I don't know, and someone just be like, no, we got this, let's go, we got to go another mile and we're done for today or whatever. I think there's you're all in this group. I'm assuming you're all gonna at some point gonna want to quit, but the others will carry you along.
Right. Kind of like Survivor. Survivor?
Oh yeah.
They want it when those pansies get on that show, which makes me mad because I'm like, millions of people have been trying out and you want to quit?
Yeah.
No, stick it out, buddy. But they talk each other into hanging in there.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you're going, with people. Because that would be even more terrifying for me if like, hey, I'm doing this thing by myself.
Oh no, I'm not that stupid.
I'd be scared for you.
Yeah. Oh no.
All right. Well, good.
I'm
Um,
sure hey, listen, for real. I'm sure my family would be like, "Oh, you're going by yourself? Great. Have a good time. Bye-bye."
yeah.
Because I drive them nuts.
That's all right. I do want to make a note. This has nothing to do about anything, but you mentioned Parks and Rec, and people. There may be a handful of people that listen to this podcast when it was called the Nerdball Podcast, but it was something entirely different. It was me and my buddy, um, who started this podcast, and you talked before we started recording. We would talk sports and we would talk nerd culture, like TVs, movies, video games, that kind of stuff. And we would reference Parks and Rec a lot because it was our favorite
No
show.
way.
Yeah, so this is
That's my
226
favorite.
episodes later.
Ah,
Like we did about, I don't know, 30 some episodes of this other podcast, then we couldn't do it anymore, and I wanted to keep the name, so I thought
oh
I'd
my
bring it
gosh.
up. Yeah.
Wait, all right, really quick sidebar, major
Yeah, yeah.
sidebar. I mean,
Yeah.
segues are overrated. Favorite episode?
Uh,
What are your favorites?
I like anything when Ron is the main part of the episode.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love Ron. I really liked when Andy was, before Andy got the Marvel movies. I liked him.
Yeah,
Just because
yeah,
I don't know, he was still a character either way, but something about him being a little pudgy made it more
yeah.
funny.
Oh yeah.
I don't
And
know
oh,
favorite episode. I'm not sure, but I
oh,
love
that
it,
show
and
kills me.
I work in
That show
Parks and Rec,
kills me.
so yeah. I work for the Toledo Metro Parks, so like I like Parks and Rec, obviously. So I like
Yeah.
it's just it's just such a good show. I think I've rewatched it 4 times. So
When Ron gets off about his wife Karen, when the things he says about her are so wrong but so funny.
Yeah.
My favorite episode, real quick though, I do like
Yeah.
the hunting one where they go hunt the hunting and Ron gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
Pants queen, pants king, bula bula.
I always quote Ron, but I always tell my staff at work, never half-ass 2 things, whole ass
Yeah.
1.
I know. What's the thing he says about fishing? You can teach a man to fish, but teach a man to fish. But why? Well, why would you? He's lazy. He'll figure it out. I don't know. He says something like that.
Oh yeah, he's good. He reminds me of my father-in-law too. Like they are the same person. They are the same person.
Okay.
Well, good. We can go a little down memory lane of this podcast when it first started, and you're right. Segues are overrated. So speaking of overrated segues, we'll dive right into this. You mentioned it when we were talking about why you're going on the walk and this and what you do. So you have been battling suicide since you were 8. That's what you said at the beginning, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I'm sure, I mean, on your website you talk to all kinds of people. I'm sure it's not easy talking about things like this. I know I had talked to you before we started recording about my brother who passed away from a drug overdose. Like, it is not the easiest thing. I have given talks to schools and stuff about my brother, and my mom was an alcoholic who, she's been sober a while now, and she actually does talks with me sometimes. But it's not easy to talk about. How do you first start deciding, like, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about myself?
I mean, there's a process to that. I have struggled with it for so long, but I think where I decided that I was going to share about it was when I had my worst attempt was actually as a pastor's wife. I'm married to a pastor,
Mhm.
and so I'm definitely not in that category of somebody that you would think would be trying to take their life.
Mhm.
And here I was, married to a pastor and found in a parking lot, completely inebriated, taking my life in my car, and they couldn't stop me. A lot of times in a certain degree of psychosis, you could become unusually strong, almost supernaturally, like a rabid animal. And that was the case here. I was able to continue taking my life while all the first responders are trying to stop me. Which, after they rushed me to the hospital and treated my injuries, due to the violence that I had exhibited towards the first responders and myself, they were able to justify locking me up in a psych ward in isolation, by force. And so on July 30th, 2000, everything changed, because now I'm a pastor's wife who can't even kill herself right, um, still wants to die in a psych ward in isolation. I mean, where do you go from there? And I just had to kind of, that was just kind of like my point of reckoning. I was like, well, I can uh, let my scars be my bitterness, or I can let my scars be my witness. And I just decided then and there, God, if you get me out of here, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to help people not end up here. And that was 24 years ago. And so even though it's still my struggle, although I work hard, I take medicine, I follow all my rules. I have a list of rules and I follow all my rules to stay alive. It's still my struggle. But I have stayed out of the psych ward, and God has helped me help others not end up there.
What, because you said you're not like your typical quote unquote person that tries to take their life. Where were you at that point where you're like, well, I guess this is it. This is I want to be done. Like,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind?
Well, I mean, so up to that point, I had danced with the devil of suicide as a child from being bullying, as a teenager from being bullied, as a college student from a guy that I was dating, as a young adult in my professional career, as a spouse, and had eluded death all those times, but still had tried, or had wanted to take my life. This time, I just couldn't reconcile being a pastor's wife. There's not a society or a club for people that are suicidal married to pastors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very lonely world, and I didn't think I belonged in it. And divorce, is touche when you're married.
Yeah. Sorry. But you just like weren't good enough. Is that what you felt, or?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I knew I wanted to die, and I knew that that's not what pastors and pastors' wives do.
Okay.
And this was 24 years ago. There wasn't help, movements, organizations, TATs, agendas, coalitions, legislature. There was nothing 24 years ago. So not only was it relationally lonely and spiritually lonely, but culturally it was very lonely. That's not an excuse though to take your life, because look what God has done since then. So I don't pardon anybody, no matter what they're going through. I don't let them off the hook. Today I went and spoke in Miami to a high security men's prison. It was standing room only. You want to talk about people that have a good excuse to take their life,
Sure.
I wouldn't let them off the hook. I don't care what they've been through, and I don't care what they've done. If you wake up breathing, that's your proof to keep going. And they all woke up breathing today.
Is there I'm sure you've come across a bunch of people who decided to either they attempted to commit suicide, did not succeed, and have gone on and they're good now, that don't attach it to faith or God or something.
Yep.
How do you talk to those people? Because for you, this is what it is, but for some other people, that might not be the case.
Right. Well, and I think that that's what has allowed me to go into the prisons and public schools and public universities. Is suicide is a universal language, and it knows no bias. And the most faithful person and the most pagan person and everybody in between can be tempted to take their life. And I'm not here to push my religion. I'm here to stay in my lane and help everybody with myself keep going when your mind says quit.
Yeah, because I would imagine that would push people away when you're like, well, this is why you're alive, and it's because God and all this stuff, and that's good to hear, because you're right.
Yeah.
It is an all-encompassing thing. Suicide is. So you have to have an open mind to realize, like, okay, well, not everyone's going to be like me coming out of this and how I felt.
Right.
So we have to figure out ways on how to make this better for everybody.
I'll tell you what, Sylvania, Ohio, not far from you, I would think. So yeah. Sylvania.
Yep.
Had a suicide, and they flew me up there and did a special assembly. They had all the high school students in the assembly, 1,700 kids. Um, and I shared my story, and they had me talk, and then we did anonymous Q&A. And Lorenzo, the faculty and the administration and the superintendent were speechless and stunned and rendered silent when they heard the questions these kids were asking me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I am so appreciative of is that even though I'm a person of faith, the public school still gave me clearance to come in and talk about suicide, because we might have prevented another one by the simple fact that these students were able to get out these life or death haunting questions that they were keeping, within. So
yeah, you give, sometimes people don't give, or I should say adults don't give kids or young adults enough credit to understand things. Now there's kids are kids still, but sometimes right, and sometimes but sometimes they surprise you, and they are becoming adults, and they have adult thoughts sometimes, and all these things come into play when you're in high school, let alone trying to just be a person. Growing up in high school is hard enough, but having all these questions and trying to figure out answers, and it's good to hear that,
and I'm not their nagging parent,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not their peer that's going to tell them what they want to hear. I'm a person that understands what it's like to want to die, who's going to get back on a plane and just wants them to live. And so I think that I was able, by sharing my story, to foster a safe place with these kids. And by the fact that, whenever I do go and speak, I do anonymous Q&A, and I'm very, very firm about that. I don't negotiate on that, because people are not going to ask if you slap their name on it.
I love that. And that is so cool that you do that, because you're right. If it's anonymous, you're going to get way more out of it.
And somebody's thinking about taking their life, no matter where I go.
Yeah.
And I want them to be able to talk about it. We kill ourselves in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to be able to bring these questions that we're having out into the light.
You know what's hard, and maybe it's not as hard as I'm thinking. Obviously, when someone commits suicide, you see it, it's happened, it's a new story. But when you see someone that doesn't do it, like, I feel like there's like nothing there sometimes. And maybe for you there is more, because maybe you'll get an email or a letter saying, hey, this is where I was at, I feel better now after talking to you, or whatever. But it is, when people are saved from killing themselves, you don't know it sometimes.
Right.
They just don't do it.
Right. I mean, that's why, an extension of my organization is, we send life boxes to people that have attempted, because I want them to know when they receive that life box that, number one, I want them to live.
Mm-hmm.
But number two, that this life box was curated for you, because you matter, and we love you, and we believe in you, and because you're alive, you can do great things.
Can you explain those? Because I was on your website and looking at these life boxes, and there's a bunch of different kinds for, the sickness, loneliness, depression, suicide. And what was when you first created these, or what was it for when you were coming up with this idea?
So during COVID, I was not able to do what I usually do. I do a lot of visits to people that are struggling in hospitals, psych wards, detox, juvie, what have you. And, those were all shut down, but yet people were still reaching out to me, and people were still dying.
Mm-hmm.
I was being inundated with people that were overdosing and taking their lives. And I felt so helpless. And so, my friend Julie said, why don't you start to ship these people what you normally would have taken them in person? And so out of my dining room, I started curating these life boxes to all these people and shipping it to them for free. And that became known as the life box. And in 3 years, we've done 16,000 to all 50 states, 14 countries. To that high school in Sylvania, we did 1,700 student life boxes.
That's impressive. And to know that there's these people who you are a stranger to these people that you're sending these to, and that that is a big thing too, to be like, hey, there's these strangers out there that care about me enough to send me this box, or send my loved ones this box, or send an entire school of these boxes.
Yeah. And it's really important to me, and the team knows this, but it's very important. It's, we take time. This will never be an Amazon Prime function, because people are not made in Amazon warehouses. And so, we do these by hand. We get the requests in through my website, and we curate these based on their age, based on their gender, based on their affliction. Are they a student? Well, if they're a student, it's going to have cool student things in it. And if it's somebody that's lost their pet, Lorenzo, we've had people that want to give up because they live alone, and they had to put their dog to sleep, and they have no one, and they don't see a reason to live. So we curate life boxes for pet loss. All kinds of reasons.
Do you have
a lot? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, we get a lot for veterans and first responders.
Do you have people, or is there a I'm going to say Facebook group, but it could be something else, but like of people where like that person who lost a pet and they're lonely, like where people can talk to other people? Do you have something like that, or do you point people in direction of like, hey, here's these groups that can help you?
Yeah, my website has resources for all those things. One question that I get asked a lot is, well, do you have like a follow-up protocol? So once you give them a life box, do you circle back around? And I'm like, 2 reasons. Number one, no, because I don't know if they want me all up in their business.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I know that when I've struggled with suicide, there's a degree of embarrassment to that. I don't know if I want somebody following up with an email and asking me all about, my business. And the other reason I don't follow up with them is that's not my lane, Lorenzo. I'm just trying to help people not die, but I cannot fix their generational curses, their porn addiction, their heroin addiction, their criminal past. I can't. That's not my area.
Is that hard for you? Or was it hard for you at the beginning?
I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad, but no one's been able to. I mean, I've got a lot of issues too. There's a reason why somebody like me has struggled with suicide for 42 years. There's a lot of things that didn't go right as a kid. And there's help out there. There's help out there for all of us. We can get help. We don't have to give up because we can't find help.
Yeah, and I know just with my brother, I know people would kind of, and I was the same way, like get mad at him, like, well, why don't you just not do drugs? But it's hard. It's a disease. You're addicted to these things, and that's what people don't understand sometimes. And after a while, it's just like, it is what it is, and we got to do our best to protect ourselves when we know the inevitable is going to happen. And at some point, I was waiting for that phone call, and eventually, my mom called me and said, "Hey, your brother passed away, and it is what it is." But it doesn't make it any easier. And you're right. Like there are other steps in your life boxes and your talks to schools, and all this is just like a step in this process. And for some people, it might be the first. For some people, it might be in the middle somewhere, or a giant step like that really gets them to open their eyes. And you don't know that. You're just doing this as a step and as a process,
right?
And you're reaching out to whoever you can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal: a life box isn't going to save people, but I know that the things that I put in the life box are the things I've used to help me make it this far. And so my integrity just says, do for others what has worked for you. And so that's what I did. Did you know I was born in Bowling Green, Ohio?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was born, my dad went to BGSU.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I lived there a couple years. I attended school. They told me not to come back after a semester because attended is a real loose term. I was on the book. I was on the books.
Amazing.
And they got my money. So
that's amazing. And then my best friend Leanna, she lives in Perrysburg, but she's the one that connected me to you. Construction workers are like the number one vocation for suicide right now. And so a whole bunch of contractors had an event up there in Toledo, and I came up and partnered with them, and we gave construction life boxes to like 500 construction workers in Toledo.
So can you give an example of what are in these life boxes?
Yeah. I mean, you can see it on my website, but like, give me a person. Let's do a scenario. You give me an age, a gender, and an affliction. I'll tell you what they'll get.
Well, actually, what maybe when you said construction life box, I'm like, all right, well, what the hell's in that? Why is that? Why is that parceled out into its own thing?
Well, it is because those are the dudes. Those are the bros, man. And I can't be sending them no sissy box. With like bath soaps in it.
Okay. So what's in the construction life box?
So the construction life box was very near and dear to my heart because my dad was, he was a hippie, lasted one semester at BG, much like yourself, and ended up just being a construction worker all of our lives. So, I picked his brain and my brother's brain. I was like, what would be cool and what would be like a laughable joke? And so, in there's a guide on PTSD. A lot of guys in construction will witness accidents or incur an accident themselves, and it's traumatic because it's painful, but they still got to go show up and grind, man. They don't have the luxury of retiring early. So it'll have a resource on anxiety, which it's this resource they can actually keep in their glove compartment or they can put it in their wallet. But a lot of these guys got to be able to talk themselves off the ledge, and they don't want to do that publicly. So I equip them with something that they can keep in their car and help talk themselves off the ledge privately. It's called grounding techniques. It's very helpful. A Bible, a journal, a pen, and the pen is an actual, what's that tool called that kind of like helps things make sure they're not like that?
A level?
But like
a level?
Yeah, the pen is a level.
Oh, nice.
How dope is that, right? And then it's got like a measuring tape. That's a keychain.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the pine tree sniffy thing. I put the pine tree sniffy thing in there because construction trucks reek.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then we put in some puzzles, we put in some lifesavers, we put in a deck of cards because it's good to keep your mind off your mind when your mind is messed up. So the guys get a deck of cards, and a personal handwritten card from me and the team, and a stress ball and a wristband that says never give up, and I think probably a 988 suicide lifeline card.
Okay. All right, so let's turn it and flip it around. What about if it's a 13-year-old girl who's getting bullied in junior high? And yeah.
We get that a lot.
Yeah.
Sad. It's sad.
Oh,
I went to Jamaica and spoke at 4 high schools because the cutting is so bad, it's so rampant there. And not just with the girls, with the guys. A lot of guys are cutting. So 13-year-old female being bullied, she would get a resource on bullying, on what to do. She would get a devotional on why I'm awesome that she could read in her bedroom, put it beside her bed where her iPhone is, so that when she's done getting bullied, she's got a book that will lift her up. She'll get a teen Bible, she'll get a journal, she'll get a pen, but it will be like a cool pen. It'll be a pink pen that's got a bunch of glitter on it. and her journal will be a fuzzy journal, like a fuzzy journal that's pink. And she'll get gummy bears, and she'll get a Pop-It keychain so she can release some stress on the Pop-It. She'll get a canister of Play-Doh. She'll get lip gloss that's got sparkle in it. She'll get a stuffed animal. She'll get tissues. She'll get chapstick. She'll get a wristband that says never give up, 98 lifeline card for teens. Yeah. Stress ball.
That's cool because again, it's someone getting. I mean, everyone loves gifts. Everyone loves getting things, And at a time when you're the lowest or seemingly the lowest, to receive something like that, I'm sure it's a big help.
Yeah. And sometimes, of course, there's pushback with the component of the Bible, and I've had to wrestle with that because I'm not in this to proselytize my faith at all. But I'm not backing off from it, man. I mean, look at the numbers. We've done 16,000 in 3 years. Who else is doing this? And here's the thing, it's their prerogative what they do with it. They could wipe their butt with it, they could throw it in the trash, they could give it to somebody else. I don't care. The reason they're going to get it is because when I was 8 years old and I first wrote a suicide letter at 8 years old, I also had a Bible. And to this day, I still have my 8-year-old Bible. And my integrity demands that I help people with the things that have helped me. And so I gotta put that in there, man. But for the children, I get a lot of requests for little kids. I have gone to the psych ward to visit 4-year-olds that have attempted suicide. And so the life boxes for the 4-year-olds, they get a 4-year-old Bible. And I just won't back off from it. The other reason is because y'all are staying at hotels that got them in the nightstand. So shut the heck up. Shut the heck up. It's not like people are like, no, not staying at the Holiday Inn because they got a Bible in the drawer. I mean, who does that?
Well, you're right. And somebody's putting it, and you put it in the box, they can do whatever, they can decide whatever they want to do. They don't have to look at it. Yeah.
No.
What does an 8-year-old put in a suicide letter?
So, interesting factoid. You're the first person to ask me this. My mom was cleaning out their basement. They live in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and she found it.
Really? I feel like as a parent, I would have thrown that away. Like,
right? That just shows how messed up my family is.
Let's
keep it.
Oh God.
Let's keep it.
Oh my God.
But let's put it on the fridge with a magnet. We're so proud of her.
Oh my gosh.
But I'll tell you what, it is a blessing in disguise, because when I do go and talk to schools, I also have my 14-year-old suicide letter, and I hold them both up. And it corroborates my story. Those kids know I'm not BSing. I'll be honest with you though, I have not been able to read them.
Okay.
That wrecks me that I even have them. And I've got kids, and oh my gosh, do you have kids?
I do, yeah.
I mean, to read little 8-year-old Heather's suicide letter, I just can't do it. Can't do it. But I do have it.
That's God, I'm so interested in that. Like,
I'll let you read it.
Would you really?
Yeah.
I'm a complete stranger, and
I'll let you. I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll send it to you.
Okay. All right. I won't put it anywhere, but this will be for my own thing. But I am very interested in that because my daughter's 9 right now. My son's 12. And my son is a big dude. He was just like me. He's going to be bigger than most of the kids in his class, and we want him to be gentle, and he is, and to the point where it's almost like too much. Like hey, you're playing football now. You can be a little bit more meaner, but like
right.
But we want him to do that, and my daughter, we're trying to as much as we can, trying her to be like, hey, you have to stand up for yourself, and you gotta do this and do that, and to the point where it's almost too far that way, and she pushes back a lot, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But to see or to read a letter written by someone who is about my daughter's age, and to say like, this is it, and I'm writing a letter to say
I'm done.
I'm
done.
It's very interesting.
And I know, but I do know why. I know why I wrote it that day. I was at a new school as going into 3rd grade at a new school, and they were picking on the new kid. And nobody had equipped me. Nobody had set me up like you guys are doing for your daughter, and said, stand up for yourself. So I went up. They knew I was vulnerable. They knew I was prey, and they just devoured me because I projected that. I showed insecure, lowly, vulnerable. And I went to school one day, and my desk was missing in Mrs. Cousins' class. This was at Crim Elementary, Bowling Green.
How you just remember? Yeah.
Heck yeah, you don't forget this crap.
Oh yeah.
And I looked, and all the kids were laughing, and so very awkwardly, sheepishly, I found my desk. It was in the corner of the classroom. They had moved it facing the corner, and I walked over so that I could move my desk back to where it was supposed to be in the center of the classroom, when I noticed a piece of notebook paper on top of it, and at the top it said, "Why we hate Heather Funk," and all the kids had signed a reason why they hated me. And it was petty reasons, because you guys are poor, because you don't have Nikes, because you don't wear iZods. And that was it. Thank me. And I didn't know how to live after that.
Yeah,
And so
that's hard. I mean, it's hard to get that letter. It's hard being new. It's hard. I mean, I moved to a school when I was 14. I was a freshman. I moved to Perrysburg, and luckily for me, I followed my dad's advice and played football my freshman year, and found friends before school started, because that's, making friends in any move is a difficult thing. You grow up with all these people, and then you're just moving away, or
right.
it's tough.
Exactly. Yes.
And then these new people in your school, seemingly you're like, hey, maybe these people will be my friends, and now they have this list of why they don't like you.
Oh yeah. It was brutal.
Wow.
It was brutal. And so, the when I look back, and the thing is God has just given me this. I mean, it's bittersweet. I have an impeccable, detailed memory of it all.
Yeah.
Of it all. And I'm glad, because I could sit down and talk to your daughter. I could sit down and I could talk to her, because I have not forgotten the details of struggling at 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's why people are calling you to go talk to all these people.
Yeah. There's really only one season of life I really can't speak to, and that's being like a senior citizen. But every phase of a life, including a pandemic.
Yeah.
My scariest, regrettable encounter with suicide, unfortunately, was during 2020, and it's embarrassing to say that. I hate that, but it was. But I survived it, and now I know what it's like to survive a pandemic.
Yeah, when you're already in that zone, I guess the pandemic isn't going to help that.
No.
And I would imagine you saw a rise in life boxes, possibly. Well, that's when they were created, right? Yeah.
Yeah, bananas. It was crazy. Yeah. It was so I'm battling my own demons in this forced isolation, and I've got all these people coming to me, dude. I mean, right out of the cannon, I'll never forget. This is when I stopped receiving notifications. It was around midnight at the beginning of the pandemic. I get a notification from Facebook. I go to my messages. I'm half asleep. It's a picture, and I don't know if this is TMI. You might have to edit it out, of a pastor's wife in her bathroom with a noose.
Really?
Yeah. And all she said was, at the moment, still here. And she has 4 kids, and her husband.
Can I tell you?
She's at the precipice of either living or dying.
Yeah. I don't know.
You're gonna edit that out? No. You're gonna edit that out?
No. Listen. I don't know. I don't have to edit it out, because something happened with your internet where it cut out. So I don't even know what you said after you described the woman in the tub.
It cut out?
Yeah, it cut out. I heard you described the woman with the noose, and then you froze. It was jumbled up, whatever, and then you said you're gonna edit that out, and it was already out. So I'm not gonna make you repeat it. I'm gonna think maybe that just wasn't supposed to be said at that time. That kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Okay, fine. Moving on. Segues are overrated.
That was wild.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you mentioned your team a few times, and I'd like you to speak on them, because it sounds like it's not just you. You got this group behind you and with you and helping you do all this stuff.
Yeah. I have a team, I have staff, whatever you want to call it, but I mean, they're awesome. I mean, this is not a business that's going to make it on the Fortune 500. People aren't jonesing to help people not kill themselves. And honestly, Lorenzo, I'm not looking to grow the business. I'm hoping to go out of business.
Yeah.
I want people to stop killing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What we forget and what we lose sight of is we're gone, but we leave hundreds of people as victims behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And they struggle for the rest of their lives, not only with the loss, but the whys. And so, it's a tough organization to be a part of. It takes its toll. It's really important for the team and I to have life in the office to be the antithesis of the death we're always dealing with. Can you imagine reading 16,000 reasons why people wanted to give up?
Yeah.
And because they're able to put in the comment section as much detail as they want. I mean, I've read a lot. So, we have to have a lot of happy hours. And find good things to do. Got to balance it out.
Yeah, because that is a tough job to read all those things and still say, where are we going for lunch? That's
exactly right. And I think that's why. I have a sense of humor, and like today with the prison, guys, I can get away with a lot more than I can with a lot of other audiences. But I would be like, I was yucking it up with them, like, can't even kill yourself, right? And they get it.
Yeah.
They're laughing with me. They get it. But listen, you better find things to laugh about if suicide is your struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, my mom. You remind me of my mom because she is very much the same way.
So you're saying I'm old?
No, finding humor in this, right?
I'm sitting right here.
Finding humor in this because my brother passed away. It'll be 4 years in September, and my grandma was living with my parents, and she passed away a few years ago, and she has both their urns sitting on their mantle. And every Halloween, she dresses them up in costumes. They're wearing costumes. During Christmas, they have Christmas hats on these urns, and like, and that's how we get through, right? We're always making fun. If someone were to walk in the house and we're talking about my brother, like they would think it's weird. I do it at work sometimes, to the point where my boss gets it now, and like he's even made a joke or two where I know it, like he didn't want to, but he knows that's how I am, and I love it. Like this is how you celebrate my brother. My brother is for whatever he was into, he was a goofball. I loved him. He was my older brother, but he was just, this is the way he is, and he would love every second. Plus, he loves attention. He loved attention. So anytime we are talking about him, he's loving it. So like, and that's why I get from my mom. Like my mom is that too, and that's how she gets through. And I don't know if I've ever really sat down and had a serious conversation with my mom. I can't with my dad. My dad would cry, like immediately cry.
Oh
like,
yeah, people handle it differently. Handle it differently.
Yeah. So
we do a lot of grief life boxes. And those are the ones that I've been the most involved in. I didn't really want to do a deep dive into this topic, but a year and a half ago, my youngest brother, I have three, my youngest brother died of an overdose, intentional, took his life. So it's been I just can't even talk about it.
That's all right.
It's messed me up pretty bad. For him to die by the thing I've been fighting so long for. We were tight, we had each other's back with it, and he pieced out on me, and grief's tough, man. Grief's tough. But the life boxes are the second most popular, believe it or not. And I'm intrinsically involved in them because grief's hard. Grief's hard. And so I want to make sure that the recipients that have lost somebody definitely feel comforted by what they're opening that life box up to.
I've seen my dad cry a few times, and like even like the whole process of I had to do a lot of it because I wasn't going to make my parents do that stuff for their son, and so I was doing a lot of the stuff at the end, like talking to the funeral home and making arrangements, all that stuff, and finally, like we do everything, we get set up, and we're done, and then my dad's like he starts crying and kind of walks in the garage, and I open the door. I said, Dad, you can cry in front of us, like it's okay, like we're all sad. And I don't know if it's just a machismo thing where you don't want to see that, but he's always been a little more emotional than your stereotypical Mexican dad. And
is your mom a Latina?
Yeah, she is. Yep. So both my grandparents were born in Mexico. Both my parents were born in Texas.
Okay.
So like it was crazy to see because I wasn't used to it, but to know that like that's part of it too. Like my dad can cry because I have my dad like way up here, and because he's my dad, and you know, he's not without fault, but he's still my dad.
Right.
And like to see that part of it, like was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I even went to my therapist and like I told her, I was like, I've never really cried about my brother, and I don't know what that is. No. And she's like, I think part of it is maybe because you're mad, like not just mad because he's gone, but also mad because there was a lot of things that I could be mad at myself, because there was a time where I did not let him see my kid, you know, because because he was into drugs and I didn't want that around. And, you know, so I just, even to this day, there was never really like just a weep session about my brother.
Yeah.
And maybe I could still hang that over his head, like, hey, you haven't got me yet, man. You know?
Yeah, right. Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not your therapist, but I know that, you know, my husband is a Cubano. He's, you know, got major machismo, and his sister died 4 years ago, and he was there and he couldn't save her. And you know, he doesn't cry about it. And here I am, I can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I broke down at the prison today in front of 250 men talking about, you know, my brother. So I think my husband telling me to not cry would be like me telling my husband he needs to cry.
Yeah.
And neither one of those would be right. Yeah.
I tell you what really messed me up. What really messed me up.
I gotta take my cold medicine.
Oh, you're right. When my brother died, you know, I was sad and I shed some tears and that kind of stuff. When my dog died too, I was a wreck.
Oh, no.
That messed me up, like in my brain. Like, this is my dog. I've known him for 13 years, almost 14. Yeah. He died and I couldn't handle it. My wife and I were bawling and everything. And then I had to go to my therapist for that. I'm like, why is this? Like, I'm bawling for my dog over here. And then my brother, who I've known for over 35 years, I'm sad. Like, I'm broke. I wish he was here, but the reaction was different and it just messed my brain up a little bit.
Well, I mean, like, how did she delineate between your different griefs with these?
I don't remember. Okay. And
that's so interesting.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Maybe because this dog was in my life every day of my life. And my brother, I kind of cut him out after a while, you know? So. Right.
Well, and you, like you said earlier, to your point, you had to have boundaries with your brother. You have no boundaries with a dog.
Yeah. So, that dude saw everything and was everywhere. So.
That's sad.
Yeah. But before we go, please tell us all the listeners about your website. I will put the website in the show notes too, so people can click on it, check it out. But tell people how they can help and what they can do.
Sure. So it's wondherful.com. The name of my organization is Wondherful Incorporated, and it's spelled wonderful, but there's an H in there. So it's WONDHERFUL. It's trademarked, so don't try to steal it. I'll show up at your bedroom window. And all you have to do is click on Lifebox and fill in the information. We will priority ship them anywhere to anyone going through anything for free. They're priority shipped. I just incur that cost and beg for donations because time's of the essence when you're hurting. So every single one is priority shipped. You can request one anonymously. You can request one in honor of somebody. You can request one for your whole classroom. It doesn't matter. Your whole football team.
Yeah.
We honor every single request, and then we pray for donations on the side.
Sure. And I will say it is very easy and seamless. And I don't know if you pay attention, but I was able to donate while we were talking. So
you were.
It is very easy to figure that out and to give some bucks to this website and to
my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, keep this help going. So I think it's very important, and I'm glad we were put in contact with each other because this is awesome. You're awesome. You're very easy to talk to. I do like. With topics like this, it is hard sometimes to talk about, and when you can have some humor to it, it makes it a little like it is a serious thing, but when you can make it as unserious as you can, it gives more people a chance to talk.
Booyah, booyah!
Well, Heather, thanks again for coming on the podcast. Again, I will put your website in the show notes so people can click on it. Hopefully you can get some donations. I would I would say hopefully you get some life boxes, but I really don't want you to send those out because like you said, I want you to run a business too. So
thank you. I want to go into the podcasting business after this.
Hey,
thank you for what you do. You're great, and you really need to take your show on the road. You need to get out of your mom's basement. You need to have. You're really a good interview.
Oh well, thank you.
You're good at this. You're really good.
I would love to be paid to podcast. Until then, I will keep working at a park and do these on the side because this is a lot of fun. You're a lot of fun. And if you want to come back on, please come back on, or if you want to talk about anything in particular. So.
Well, I want to come over to your house. I want to meet your wife and kids when I'm in Toledo.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
all right.
That'd be great.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again to my guest, Heather Palacios, for coming on the podcast. And I really appreciate her coming on. It was someone I didn't know, complete stranger. So that it's always fun to dive into that kind of stuff. And check out her website, wondherful.com, wondherful.com, for all ways to help donate to her cause, and if you need to request a life box, it'd be a great place for that also, because they're the ones that have life boxes, apparently. Maybe, I don't know, I could have just made that up, but she's the only one I've ever talked to that has life boxes, so get them from her. But yeah, thanks to Heather for coming on. And some of you may find it strange and weird how we talk about these subjects, and I just know when it's a topic like this, sometimes humor, sometimes you got to be able to laugh about stuff. Yes, there was serious conversations to be had, but not everything has to be super serious all the time, and there's a time and place for everything. So this might not have been your cup of tea as far as how we went about talking about it, but this is how we decide that we feel that we wanted to talk about it. So if you feel differently, you can definitely comment and we can have discussions about it. So again, thank you for downloading, sharing, subscribing to this podcast. Continue to please subscribe to the YouTube page. We're almost to 150. Let's reach that. Just hit that little bell. And the email, the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a line over here at the Nerdball Podcast, and just search the Nerdball Podcast on all social medias. So as always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.